Okay, Rookie, this is a recon dive. I've got intel from my guy Connor that there was a lot of offshore salvage recorded in this area. Lots of surface debris. This dive should be more than worth the effort. I'm sensing it could be something big. No one's been exactly authorized to run salvage operations in these waters, so we gotta act fast.
It's not the holodeck, but it's a good start. I'm Michael Jordan, this is Niche Gamer's video review supplemental for PlayStation VR Worlds. Before we get into the usual, it has to be stated that this is a sort of short story gaming compilation experience, which really doesn't have a name of its own. These 5 shorties are very different experiences, and some are much better than others. For the sake of brevity, I am going to be shortening up a little bit of the review aspects just so I can get them all nice, neat, and into a tight package for you guys to examine. Let's start by describing the graphics of the 5 games/experiences. The lame duck of the group is VR Luge. VR Luge is by far the worst title of the 5. Players are set on a downhill course trying to beat an arbitrary time. Almost all visual appeal is lost because the game mechanics and what you see look like garbage. Next we have Danger Ball, a game where you use your head to aim a paddle in a Pong-like Tron disc battle. Overall, it is very middle of the road because the developers knew that they would be focusing on the gameplay with this one overall instead of just the immersion experience, which works actually to its strength and doesn't hurt it in the slightest. Into the Deep is less of a game and more of a PlayStation experience, add giant air quotes. It does have to be mentioned that it looks really beautiful, and as somebody who has gone diving himself, I have to say that I wish the visuals were that clear in reality because it does have a lot to see, and if you are interested in a VR experience, this is a good place to start. Now let's take a look at the 2 standout games for PlayStation VR Worlds, and that is London Heist and Scavenger's Odyssey. The London Heist sees players enter the shoes of London's criminal scene, using all elements of the PlayStation VR as well as 2 motion controllers. While the game does have some graphical elements that are kind of pretty, it is nothing to write home about. But it does by far the best job of immersing the player in the world. The other standout experience is Scavenger's Odyssey, and it is the most fleshed out graphically of the bunch. In a lot of respects, this is what I could imagine a VR Metroid game being kinda tailored to. The designs of the game are interesting, and the layout of the levels that you traverse are well done and clearly defined, which is very helpful, especially when you're going through a VR game. As this is set in the middle of space, it is actually a rather pretty landscape to explore with your eyes and the VR headset. Now that we've talked about the general visuals, let's get into gameplay. As stated before, VR Luge is a bit of a lame duck. It won't only make you sick, but it seems that the developers didn't even take the time to research how a luge works, or a street luge for that matter. VR Luge forces the player to steer with their head, which is downright terrible and actually prevents you from even being immersed in the experience, because any little tilt of your head to look at any interesting object that may or may not show up will cause you to go into the wall or hit a car or a bunch of other shit that is most likely going to make you vomit. Danger Ball, on the other hand, is a totally different beast. It actually uses the PSVR astonishingly well. Players will be using their head to track the paddle position and to easy aim and change the way the ball is moving. It is much like playing Pong, where you can make the ball spin, move faster, or change directions depending on how you hit the ball. The AI is fun and interesting, and the game is very accessible to anyone. The London Heist controls well for the most part and has a lot of unique elements that I hope are picked up by other developers and games in the future for the system. The game is really short and does not have much replay value, but really seems like a super small part of a very interesting world I would love to play in. One major issue, like most VR games of this nature, you need a lot of room or you will not be able to enjoy the full aspects of the game. You'll be ducking under cover, firing bullets, punching numbers in a keypad, and you'll need all that room. Scavenger's Odyssey, on the other hand, does not have that room problem, as you will be mostly seated in a chair using the controller and the headset. Scavenger Odyssey is the standout when it comes to gameplay, and you have full 360-degree movement in your spider-like mech. Firing, aiming, grappling, and jumping from platform to platform is amazingly easy, fun, and fast. but once again this has the same issue as the London Heist, in which the experience feels like a very small portion of a much bigger picture, as if you only had the first 2 levels of the game with it screaming for something more to be made out of it. In general, there's no standouts when it comes to sound and music. There are some nice dialogue with the London Heist and Into the Deep as well as Scavenger's Odyssey, but outside of that, there's just basically a natural ambiance to whatever you're doing and some small key musical things depending on the theme of the game. They do work well with the VR immersion because you don't want a sensory overload, but they aren't outstanding. The only 2 games that have a story are the London Heist and Scavenger's Odyssey. As stated above, they are screaming to be made more than what they actually are. There is so much potential in both of these that it is shocking that Sony did not pluck them out of this compilation and make them into full 40-hour games. I could easily see the London Heist getting fleshed out like GTA but for VR, and Scavenger's Odyssey being somewhat of a 3D Metroid experience. But as both games leave you on a cliffhanger, there is the potential for Sony to still pluck these up and make something more with them. At the end of the day, PlayStation VR Worlds is great for what it is outside of VR Luge, which can be easily passed over. Every gaming experience has something unique to it, but is desperately clawing to be something more. It would have been nice to see these things fleshed out, but it also shows that in the early stages of the PlayStation VR, it has the tools to make something great. If you have a PlayStation VR, I would highly suggest you check this title out. Thank you for watching this video review. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and if you want to help us out, feel free to check out our Patreon page.